when the conference doesn't reimburse me, I still do it because it is bigger than what I can report. It defines who I am, not what my employer expects. Let me leave you. Okay. All I was just saying is, can you please be purposeful?
Thank you.
Please be. Please be.
Call us now. 012-382-4936. That's 012-382-493.6. 93.6. Your say on Tshwane FM 93.6.
All hits, all day, and it's all yours.
Yo, what up? It's your boy Questa, the Carton Good Boy, your day one, K1 representative, and we out here. You tuning into Tshwane FM right now. Mind out. Wait, where you going? Where you going? Stay right there. Sorry that.
After I jump on it, push up again. Yeah, Saltas. Kalau lang mas pwede ko eh.
Mr. Zuma, the fact that you took a shower after having unprotected sex with an HIV positive woman, believing that it would minimize your risk, has really angered AIDS activists. What is your response to their criticism?
But if we have been in the kitchen, my dear, peeling onion, you wash your hands also.
My dear.
What was funny about washing my hands after doing after washing yourself? What's the problem?
But Mr. Zuma, AIDS is a big problem in this country. And saying things like
And
taking a shower.
hygiene is a big problem in this country. Clean yourself.
minutes after 6 o'clock. Tshwane FM 93.6. It's a very great evening to you. And thank you so much for your listening pleasure tonight. My name is Mokete Radebe. I am your news pioneer. We do this every Monday till Thursday, right here, man, on the station that continues to rock you most. I'm not going solo. I'm joined by Tony T on the first hour of the show. And of course, in the second hour, the Fidlway, the blonde lawyer, will be joining us to look at legal matters. Tony T, the guy one is.
Good, thanks. And how are you listening?
I'm great, man. I'm great, man. You know, Refilo comes with blonde hair. You come with your stylish dreadlocks. But so when I'm with Bob Marley while the show, eh?
Well, the show.
Yeah, Bob Marley in this show.
You can spot me from there. All right, this is the guy we keep on listening to every Tuesday.
Indeed, indeed. For 3 minutes after 6 o'clock. Today we're looking at tips for tips for new.
Yes. So today I just want to touch on 6 tips for beginners who want to come into this real estate game.
Interesting. Before we jump into that, let's check news, the headlines of news that are making headlines. The economic freedom fighters are in first place on the list of the top 10 of payroll donations to the Solidarity Fund. Now, people were encouraged to sacrifice part of their salaries after the fund was launched at the start of lockdown to help with a rapid response to the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, the Red Berets have contributed a total of 15 million rand, and this was revealed when fund officials briefed Parliament's Standing Committee on Finance today. The EFF's donations knocked those by government officials into second place with just 8 million. Anonymous donors gave up 4.6 million of their pay, while a range of companies, including mining houses, a bank, and a retail group, made up the rest of the top 10 payroll donations, according to the Solidarity Fund. The fund has raised at this point in time 3.2 billion since it was launched in March, with 2.7 billion so far allocated for spending on personal protection equipment and other health equipment, food relief, support for the campaign against gender-based violence, and awareness campaigns. While former Nelson Mandela Bay councillor Andile Lungisa is out on parole, he said that the matter was far from over, as he was still petitioning the Concord to clear his record. Lungisa was released on parole today after he qualified for special remission. He was sentenced to 2 years for assault with intent to do grievous bodily harm after he hit a DA councillor with a glass jug during a heated council sitting in 2016. An unrepentant Lungisa received a hero's welcome from supporters. These included the likes of former Premier and African National Congress chairperson Supra Mahumapelo and ANC Youth League Task Team convener Thandi Mahambe Hlala. Lungisa had the attention of the crowd as he described present life, discussed the ANC history, and cautioned the state about how to deal with former leaders. He said that he regretted nothing about the incident and attitude which previously got him in more trouble, as the Supreme Court of Appeal felt he showed no remorse over the incident. Lungisa said he would be hitting the ground running, visiting villages and towns to preach radical economic transformation. The Hawks said that more arrests were imminent in the matric papers that were leaked, or rather in the matric paper leak scandal. Now, this following the arrest of a suspect in connection with the theft of the matric maths paper 2. Temba Shikwambana was arrested for the leak of the maths paper 2 exam last Wednesday, following an investigation by the Hawks. 3 matric papers were leaked last month. The Hawks are hoping to make more arrests in connection with the leaking of the maths paper 2, physical science and life science exams. Hawks spokesperson Katlego Mogale says Temba Shikwambana works for a Johannesburg-based company that is contracted by the Department of Basic Education to print the current year's matric exam papers. The Hawks said that investigations into how the other exam papers were leaked were still continuing. Hey man, how is this possible? Yeah. It's very tough. Opposition members of parliament today said that the restructuring and cost-cutting measures at the SABC should be allowed to go ahead. They say that the years of financial bailouts of the public broadcaster were no longer sustainable. Parties in the National Assembly on Tuesday debated the growing price of the SABC as a matter of national importance. Inkatha Freedom Party Member of Parliament Andile Lungisa sponsored the debate and said that Parliament should collectively resolve the impasse at the SABC. She said the imminent retrenchment of staff should be addressed, but the restructuring should be allowed to continue. DA member of Parliament Mzala said that she was empathic for the workers affected, saying that retrenchments should be done in a sensitive manner. So that's in South Africa. The George municipality has closed sports-filled community halls and swimming pools to curb the spread of COVID-19, and they will remain closed for the summer holidays and festive season. The Southern Cape Town has seen 348 new infections since Friday, bringing the total number of cases over 6,300, of which more than 4,500 people have recovered. George Mayor Leon van Wyk said that the trend was concerning and they were doing everything that is in their power to help mitigate the situation. The city's annual Christmas Lights Festival has also been cancelled due to that, and the municipality is at the same time exploring more ways of promoting COVID-19 health and safety protocols. Doctors Without Borders, MSF, today said that while COVID-19 may have interfered with programs aimed at helping those living with HIV and AIDS, new opportunities were also created. On World AIDS Day, officials have been reflecting on changes in the last few months and how easier access to treatment could and should still be guaranteed. Strategies such as the United Nations 1990 initiative have run into some challenges because of the coronavirus, and the strategy is an ambitious plan which sought out to have 90% of all people living with HIV knowing their status, 90% of those diagnosed with HIV receiving treatment, and 90% viral suppression, all by 2020. Dr. Lisbeth Ola from the MSF said without proper monitoring, it had been difficult to determine if these targets were on track. However, Ola is encouraged that the pandemic has created a space to reevaluate traditional methods of doing things. In KwaZulu-Natal, if they leave, nobody else will be encouraging the community to come forward and seek help if they are HIV positive. Now, there's the view of the Chief Tembinkosi Zulu from Esho in KwaZulu-Natal on Doctors Without Borders input in his community. He said that the aid and the organization has provided to them has had a massive positive impact to the community, or on the community, so much so that they don't know how their ability to reduce one of South Africa's highest antiretroviral treatment rates would be sustained once the international NGO leaves the area. So much about the MSF today. Transport Minister Fikile Mbalula says that the department would rather do everything in its power to prevent the transport sector from being a super spreader of COVID-19 during the holiday period. Mbalula unveiled the festive season campaign for safer roads in the National Assembly on Tuesday afternoon. Tshwane, that's all we have for today. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, we'll look at what's happening in property.
012-382-4936. That's 012-382-4936.
93.6. Mara ashime kisamyenge turle labra ene makosa ke manta motona uno tisata mbi labra kosa meme akitro fele tekaile mara baba ona no motor meskat ero kunya makosa buka ke naga tra are ko fa yana no. Oh my gosh, makosa ke ratela hore banna ba teng ba go makoso ba re rekela byana ibile ba re fusa pila sa
Tshwane FM, the mother of all radio stations.
5:02 after 6 o'clock. Tshwane FM 93.6. It is Tshwane. It is where we are now on the Capital Talk with myself, Mokete Radebe, your news pioneer, joined as well by Mr. Tony T as we look at property. Tony, good evening.
Good evening, sir, and the listeners out there.
Awesomeness. Property jump.
Yes, just for the listeners that have just tuned in, today's topic is 6 property investment tips for beginners. So the first tip that I'll mention is that it's this simple strategy that everyone uses, which is sort of like the bread and butter of property investment, which is buy to let. So you buy a property and you rent out the property. It's straightforward.
if bua ka tsela tsa hore na o reka with a direct aim of just renting it to people.
Yes, renting it out to people. So
which areas are more sustainable in this regard?
In this regard, well, it depends on the areas,
Sure.
But then on the fourth point, I'll mention and touch on that. Exactly which points.
Interesting. I'll be checking some of your comments on the flip side of this.
Here it is. Around 93.6. Around 93.6.
Five, 4 after 6 o'clock. Trinity, let's go back to it, and as we just continue coming up with those tips. You were on tip number 1.
Yes, on tip number 1, buy to let.
Buy to let. Yeah.
I normally see buy to let. I see it as, let's make use of this figurative.
So you're buying a salary.
A salary. So now look at it this way. Let's say you buy a property that costs 500,000 rand.
Yeah.
And the rental income that you can get is 5,000 rand. You do realize that forever and ever, we're looking at 5,000 rand. And obviously it's going to increase each and every year. Yeah, so this strategy, I just see it as buying yourself more. All right. So now look at it. Let's say your parents were to get a pension, and then normally, okay, I've heard what a pension, the company or whatever would give you a certain percentage of your money, and then a certain percentage for each and every month.
I hear you.
Yeah, so I think this is sort of similar to it, whereby you just buy a property and then it just gives you income each and every month until. This is also sort of like generational wealth. Imagine you've got 5 properties. Each and every property gives you 5,000 rand. You've got 5 kids. So altogether, like 25,000 rand. Imagine you say, okay, this property, child owner is for my first child. The other one is for my other child. So each and every child has a property, Eva Farm, 5,000 rand. So now you know that as a parent, the pocket money that I'm going to give my kids is the rental income that I have from those 5 properties.
Interesting. 56 minutes after the hour 6 o'clock. Yes. Tshwane FM 93.6 is the station that continues to rock you most. We are at this point in time speaking to you about the tips for beginners into the property investing space. Tip number 3.
No, can I just finish off tip number 1?
Oh yes.
With regards to buying to let, it's also important to note the area, because you can't just do it anywhere.
Exactly. I think that's the fundamental question as well, to see which areas are actually advisable for this specific tip.
Yes. So
especially if I mean there's other there's students now, Tshwane University of Mzala listening now, that have just started, as junior employees who perhaps want to just jump into that space. How do they exactly go about it?
So in South Africa, what I've noticed, a booming market is sectional titles, in particular flats. With flats, if you can look at all the student areas, they sort of the flats on a mall. And now the target market that's on it is students.
Sure.
So obviously, if you buy a flat, you can easily rent it out to a student. Sectional titles. So normally, what I'd advise is look at the area. What does the area have to offer? Everybody want to buy in that specific area. Buy a land mall. Let's make Pretoria as an example. People come here for education, number 1. Some people come here to look for jobs. Some people come here to equip their skills. So already that's a target market. The first one, early students, that's very broad, because now there's TUT, there's UP, there's Vega. There's a lot of institutions.
Correct.
So in Pretoria, for instance, you can look at buying in Pretoria West. You can look at buying in Central, whereby in Central, the students that you can have are people from Rosebank, those colleges around. When you buy at Hatfield, obviously your target market is students from the University of Pretoria. If you go further east, go Menlyn Park, your Linwood area, that's where your target is for students that go to either Varsity College or those colleges around that side.
Interesting. 58 minutes after the hour, 6 o'clock, Tshwane FM 93.6 is the station that continues to rock you most. Tony T is with us as he gives you tips on what to be aware of as you jump into the investment stage. We're coming through to you live on Facebook. This one is Face FM Space 93.6. Also on YouTube, it's Mokete Radebe there. So do follow us. They're on Twitter at Tshwane FM at Mokete80. And on Instagram, it's Mokete_Radebe. And on Twitter, it's at Mokete80 there. So let's keep that conversation going through. 58 minutes after 6 o'clock, and that's exactly where we are. You do know that during this time, when you begin to hear a third voice, it's that she has arrived. And but it's okay. It's okay. Tony T, continue with your tips as if our are for All
right. So now, tip number 2. Remember the first tip I mentioned was to buy, and then you let out the property.
Yeah.
The second tip is you buy, you renovate, and you sell.
I hear you.
So the essential important thing about this is to look for property that's distressed. What do I mean distressed? I mean property that's probably old, property that's damaged, a property that you know that it's below its market value.
Sure.
Okay, this property, it can't compete with the properties next door because of the state it looks. So what people do is that they buy those properties below market value, they renovate the place, and then they sell it at a higher price. In most cases, the profits that they could make can be between 50, 60,000 Rand, also 100,000 Rand. Now, let's put it this way. Imagine you find a flat. Normally the flats, it's like, let's say it's a flat that is a 2-bedroom. And in the vicinity, normally those 2 bedrooms go for like 500,000 Rand. And then now you find a flat that is so damaged inside. Let's say the owner had tenants that just ruined the place. And then the owner says, you know what, I can give you 400,000 Rand.
Sure.
You buy it 400,000 Rand. When I would 20,000 Rand, let's say you refurbish the place, you redo the kitchen, you redo the floors.
20,000.
Yeah, probably, depending on how you do it.
Estimation of 20,000.
Okay, so that's another very important thing. So when you go into this specific strategy, you need to have a team of people. Because now, as a real estate agent, I'm not necessarily an expert in construction.
Yeah.
So I'll need someone who's into construction. What I'll personally need is a plumber, an electrician, and someone who's into construction. Reason being, there's some problems that you can't see with your naked eye, but they can see. Also, we get someone who's into construction. Sometimes there are structural problems that you might not notice.
Sure.
Now the problem that might incur is that you buy the property for 400,000 Rand, only to find out that the structure is not good, and to fix it is like 100,000 Rand. By the time you sell it, you haven't done anything. You haven't made any profit from it.
Correct.
So it's very important to also have those team members on your side.
Interesting. That's very important. It's a minute after 7 o'clock-ish. Just looking at as well the bumper-to-bumper traffic on various roads in Pretoria. I'm just reminded of how it was difficult for me to come to studio today. Just coming up all the way from the north side of Pretoria. Just here on the start of the road. There were just a lot of police closing the road. It seemed as if there was something, some fair crime that I don't know whether it happened or it was being attempted there. Very hectic, and you go all the way to Church Street. Very hectic as well in that area.
Also the rain.
You go to Rebecca. It was just so bad, I had to unleash the taxi driver in me today. The professionalism of driving. I think that's what I refer to, taxi driver and me. Yeah, to be able to arrive here on time, But yeah, if you are on the roads, Kakopo, please, drive with caution and keep a safe following distance. Kakopo, do things the right way. Refuel is here to make sure that you do them by the book. If you don't, also blonde. 2 minutes after the hour, 7 o'clock, Tshwane FM 93.6. That's exactly where we are. Tony T, you will still continue with the tips. I know the student needs them more than us. She wants to get into the property space.
Yeah. Here's actually the third tip that I'm going to mention. This is very important. A lot of people miss out on this one.
Yeah.
And when they do the second when they do the second property deal, that's when they're like, oh, you know what, I'm not going to do the same mistake I did the first time. This one, I keep on saying it, and I'm going to say it again. So the third tip is shop around for the best deals for your bond.
Yeah.
But it's not easy. Eh?
How's it not easy? Please explain to me.
Look, now I'm a guy.
Okay.
In general, I don't like going from one place to the other, just trying. It's like that, you know, or if I'm buying a car, if I arrive there and I see 1, 2, 3, I know what I want, I leave. I don't go and compare prices, and it's seldom that I'll do that. It's only got insurance that I've had the patience to do it. That's number. But second, it's like with clothes. I can take you go shop A, you are a car, it's a pink. Langa one as a purple and gasing adipila now. Get like it's pink. My loyalty is on the decision I made previously.
What about your budget? Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, so the budget obviously plays a crucial role in that. Yes. And I from time to time say if I know that Kebat flat and the flat cost 10,000, I will not go to the place if I get 10,000.
Yes.
So how about Otombrella? There's another one here, 8,000, 7,000, guy. Oh, it's important to me, but I don't like the distress now. I just want to get over and done with it. Yes. You can call me impatient if you like. I think I get bored easily. I become impatient on myself, so I try to make sure that what's working it's all right. That's why I don't like traffic or queues.
So you are willing to pay, let's say a top is 150. You're willing to pay double that price at another store because you're not willing to walk around.
Well,
in fact, not even double, triple the price.
Look, if today I happen to be if I happen to be a victim of you ripping me off, then it's a lucky day. Maybe you've been hoping that you'll find one and on this day I'm that one who right? So we create a connection. It's that type of situation.
So can I change your mindset?
Well, I think what I want you to understand is that I'm not disagreeing with you that people must shop around. I'm just saying maybe I'm lazy.
There's actually a solution I have for you. It's very simple, and it doesn't need you to actually use your car. You don't need to use your petrol. The only thing you need is just to have the documents on your system, send it to a specific person. That specific person goes on your behalf. Next.
Serious?
Let me explain it now. So there's something called
that is red.
He's not allowing me to explain though.
I am allowing you. Okay, I'm allowing you. Okay, explain ahead.
Okay. So there's what we call a bond originator.
Yeah.
A bond originator is someone who goes on your behalf to all the banks.
So if you interject to there, if a lot of people don't see you, I don't know.
Oh wow.
What's the problem with?
I can't don't go no matter what.
What very white dress?
Oh
wait, yeah, what's permission?
Okay.
Yes, yeah. Oma Jesu san,
Maria.
Maria san, correct.
Mama Jesu.
Yeah, kile ne ba kolobetsa ka yona.
Yeah, really.
1 December.
Boy, now I'm entering December.
Purity.
Yes.
We be purity.
Yeah, okay. White
Top to bottom.
My purity man. Hey, when Roman TV when?
Yes,
Oh,
guys. Yes.
On TV.
I was on a commercial.
Yeah,
Oh, it was a social distancing commercial. They were trying to get people. So the message is you can spend time together, but do it responsibly. So social distancing. The message was to tell people or remind people to social distance.
So why did they choose people that are not social distancing their lives?
I am, and it was an amazing shoot. I enjoyed it a lot. Here's my mask.
How close?
Well, I'm very responsible.
And
there's space in between. There's space in between here.
I heard it's 2 meters.
This is 1.5, guys. This is 1.5.
Really?
Yeah. I'm telling you, I'm very responsible.
One about wine them literacy. But John had 5 apples.
Wow.
And Maria asked for one.
Wow. A great distinction.
And Maria asked for one. And Jerome also stole 3 and for him. and he ate half of the apple. How much does John have?
Hey guys.
7 o'clock, Tshwane FM 93.6. This is exactly where we are. We're having a lovely time in studio. Hop in as well on our DMs or on social media and also just enjoy the show with us. Tony, you were still speaking about the bank originator.
Yes.
The bond
originator.
Yes.
So now, the thing is, okay, coming back to what you were saying now, look at how much money you're losing. So let's say you being you don't go to any bank.
Yeah.
You find a property and you say, no, I'm going to buy this property, I'm going to use my own bank.
Yeah.
Your own bank can be like, okay, Mokete, we see that you want to buy this property for 500,000 rand. We can give you the 500,000 rand, but the interest rate is 9%, for instance.
Yeah.
And then right now you just keep quiet and you just like, okay, sharp, you sign. One thing that people don't know is that you can negotiate, number one.
With the bank.
With the bank. So there's two ways to negotiate with the bank.
Yeah.
Is to physically talk to them and say, Bon, I can try and make arrangements, so and I can try fix there and there. You know, that's the first option.
So this is only in property cover with anything that you buy.
Right now, I'm just talking about property. Okay. But then I'm assuming that also with car finance, it is possible.
Is it?
Yes, I think so.
Okay.
Yes. So the second thing is that's when the bond originator comes. When the bond originator takes your documents, they go to all the banks. So let's say you bank with Absa, for instance, and then the bond originator has a quotation from Nedbank. Yes. Now imagine Nedbank says, no, Mokete, we see that your bank can give you 500,000 yen. We're willing to offer you 600,000 yen.
Sure.
Are you still going to afford it?
VBS.
Yeah.
You see,
Wow.
That's how it can help you. So when you have a bond originator, at least now you can have. So now what you can do is that with the same qualification from Nedbank, you can go back to your bank and say, Bank, Bon, your competitor is actually willing to offer me something better. Do you perhaps want to negotiate? And them, they don't want to lose you as a client, obviously. That's why they can negotiate with you.
Interesting.
So you need to shop around for a better bond.
Interesting. We're on tip number 3.
Yes, we're on tip number 3. So there's 3 more tips left.
Okay.
So the fourth tip is take note of the property types performing well in the market. This comes back to the first question that you'd asked me. So now you need to understand you can't just buy any property. Like I'd mentioned, is that the most performing properties right now is actually sectional titles because of them being in student areas. It's well performing. Also, something I've noticed is that a lot of people are migrating to boomed off areas. Boomed off areas meaning that it's an area that is secured. There's only one main gate. That gate will show by Kuala. There's a security guard there. Reason being, it's for security purposes.
And what about within? Yeah, what's in South Africa?
You know, so people are also moving to those kind of communities. Yeah. So you also need to see that specific area, see what it has.
Sure.
Yeah, so that's tip number 4. And then tip number 5, diversify your portfolio. You can't have all your eggs in one basket. What if you're investing in Pretoria, for instance, and then something bad happens in Pretoria? Let's say the crime increases. You know, obviously, that will affect the value of your property.
Yes.
You know.
Speaking about crime, Pretoria has actually been regarded as a safe haven for hijackers.
Yeah.
With high levels actually of hijackings happening.
Yeah.
You know, especially just here in Rebecca, but about to have a lot of wisdom by these guys take these guys.
I can actually testify with that. I remember when I was still in TUT, I think I had 3 to 4 attempted hijacks.
Sure. 3 to 4.
3 to 4.
Which side?
The first one was in Arcadia.
Sure.
The second one was in what's that area? Behind the top floor. Do you know what top floor is?
Oh yes, that club.
It's close to TUT Arcadia campus. Yes. And then the third one was on Go Arcadia, just up Go Arcadia before Hatfield. Sure. The fourth one, that's when they tried to hijack me, but then in this time around, it was a trap that was on the road. So imagine you're driving and you just see a plastic bag. Actually, a plastic bag. They go check us.
Yeah.
So what I did is it was actually a downhill, and as I was going down, there was also a car maybe like 300-400 meters away from me. So nailing brighter. So from there, obviously, since all it's downhill and on the sides, I couldn't just swerve. So I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, man, it's just a plastic bag. As I went over it, guess what was in the plastic bag? They took 4 bricks, they put them like this. So what the plan is to you is that you hit the trap, you stop by the side, that's when they hijack you.
Yeah.
So I noticed it quickly, because after hitting that car that was directly flashing me stopped. That's why I saw that, no, this is actually a trap. And then unfortunately the car got it was
damaged,
written off because it was damaged from the inside.
Your car?
Yes, my car. The engine was damaged, the exhaust system was damaged, the gearbox was damaged.
On the spot?
Okay, so what happened was, after hitting it, I noticed that, okay, they're trying to hijack me, so let me just drive for my 3-4Ks. As I was driving, by the exhaust, the lights are flickering. That time it's 1 a.m. Imagine, it's 1 a.m.
Where were you going?
I was going to Bronx Street, so I was actually from a gig, so I had to drop off my friend because the taxi was done, so I had to drop him off there.
So the car that was flashing, did it stop and help you, or it was part of the hijackers?
It seemed like it was part of the hijackers because it stopped. It stopped, but then it stopped from there at the distance. Because what happened was that it was biting me, and then all of a sudden it just took a swerve, and now I'm wondering what's happening. And then that's when I see this plastic bag. I go over the plastic bag. That's when it happened.
Sure.
Yeah.
Hectic. In the other incidences, what happened? Hijacker, like your arcade and whatnot.
So you know what's common specifically in arcade?
Yeah.
They target these people. I hope my mom's not listening.
Yeah.
Like, one of people who go pick up, let's say, a lady or girlfriend. You park outside, you wait for her to come down.
Yeah.
Yes, so that's what they do. So they'll drive by and then switch off the lights, and then they'll just come slightly. My incidents were, I had parked the car. So from behind, I can see that there's a car that came. It came through this way, and it's a one-way. All of a sudden, it switched off the lights. I'm like, okay, what's really happening? Next thing, it's a slow. And then it's literally right behind me. It's a slow. And I'm like, okay, what's really happening? Fortunately, the car was on. My lights were off, though. As I'm observing, I can see that, okay, there's actually 4 guys in the car. So the 2 guys at the back, they came out. As they came out, they came this way. So obviously, I couldn't see from the mirror now. As I look to my right, I see this guy came to the window. That's when I took off with a gun. I forgot that I'm fistering. The other one was this side. So you can imagine if I wasn't noticing, I would have panicked and then things would have happened. Yeah. So that's what they normally do. But let's say who drive around the night just to pick up people.
Yeah. Because actually, I think in the article that I read was that most common as well to these hijackings, apart from the hidden cars, the most dominant one was the people that are are buying prostitutes.
That's
another one.
Yeah, they said they target them through that as well.
Yeah.
Because that's quite actually common.
Yeah, it's quite common.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I think that's also another great challenge.
And also, Kodi Groovers, that's another thing.
Oh yes, there's drinking and driving as well. Those that are from parties.
Parties. Yeah. So sometimes I know that at some different hoods, what they do is that they will also be at the groove, and then monitor, and they say, okay, he's at 4-5 drinks now. The moment you go to the car, that's when it happens. So they literally observe you. Everyone is just dancing with everyone. You're like, sharp. No one is actually here for crime. Hunting there. They're just observing and seeing your actions, how many bottles you've drank, or how many beers. From there they start.
And who are you with? And
who are you with as well?
And also they ask, who's this person?
Exactly. So guys, be vigilant. Here's another tip I have is that if you have a car that has no plates, it's also a target because it's easier for them to change registration or to change it into a new not VIN number but a license plate. Yeah. So that's also important. Be vigilant, especially at night. Yeah.
So the car won't be recovered.
Yeah, because I get it's a temp. So it's you can easily get a new license plate for, because I get when you buy a brand new car, you get that temp. Yeah. So that's why when you have a brand new car that you can't even get traffic fines. Yes. That's why you can drive at like 260 with that car because it technically hasn't been registered until you get.
Are you allowed to jump the border with such a car?
You can, but you always have to have the documents. So every time you jump the border, you must remember that if, for example, if you're gonna go jump the border with a rented vehicle, you have to have proof. But some borders are not really, to be honest, South African borders are not strict. They don't really check cars.
Yeah.
But most border, when you cross a border, you must actually show. Some borders insist. I know that Maseru, sometimes when you go to Lesotho, they wanna see ownership and insurance, that you are covered in Lesotho in case you cause an accident. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So they need to see the car insurance.
Yeah, and the ownership.
Okay.
And then if you're not the owner of that vehicle, the owner must have given you an affidavit to say.
I think Tshwane as well is
I've given.
So now, if it's still financed, so they need to get the letter from the bank.
Yeah, usually the bank banks are strict. They'll tell you if the vehicle is not still financed, you have to actually tell them I'm crossing the border.
Yeah.
And then they'll give you. They do have. Apps. There's some banks even have it on the app where you can actually go to your vehicle finance and say cross border later for you to cross the border.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Awesomeness. 17 minutes after 7 o'clock. Yeah, but does insurance so pay out if because you can't leave the the garage, the dealer
without insurance.
Do they pay out?
That's why they insist that the people insist that you must leave the minute that vehicle walks out of the showroom. It must be insured because anything can happen. I mean, you can drive out of there. We've seen videos of people driving out of dealerships doing cars and crashing into other cars. So you need to have insurance, and it does cover it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
18 after 7 o'clock. Please go through with your other tips so we can jump into legal matters.
So we're talking of the second last tip that I was talking about was to diversify your portfolio. It's very important not to put all your eggs in one basket. If let's say you're going into the student accommodation field, rather have maybe properties in Pretoria, targeting UP, maybe go UJ, whereby it's students from UJ Johannesburg. It can also be Port Elizabeth, where you're targeting students from what's that university?
NW something.
Yeah, UKZN in Durban. So that's how you can diversify your portfolio.
Interesting.
And then the last point that I have is you need to take it slow. This is a long game strategy or investment journey. It's not a journey that you can take just to make a quick buck. It doesn't work like that. Yeah. And then also there's something I want to advise. So the information that I was talking about throughout this show, it's actually an article that I read from Uber Home Loans. So Uber Home Loans, they also have an app. This app I actually recommend it for everyone because this app you can now, these are the functions it has. It's got an affordability calculator whereby you can see how much a bank is willing to offer you based on your affordability. That's the first thing. The second thing is bond repayment calculator. So now if you see that there's a property that you want to buy and you want to see how much the bond repayments can be, I advise this because sometimes, as much as right now the interest rate is at 7%, you need to consider the future. What if it increases to 10, 11%? This calculator now gives you that option to actually predict how much my bond repayments can increase if it happens that the interest rates do increase.
With regards to refinancing, what are the chances really of getting a lower interest rate?
Refinancing as in?
So if I want to refinance the property, right? And refinancing is allowed in property as well, right?
Is that a second bond?
Or? So no. So I've got this bond. I got a loan from FNB.
Yeah.
Now I want Nedbank to be the one paying for it. So I want to refinance it and apply for finance
and move it to Nedbank.
Actually, on that, I was with some guy from Capitec last week. So he said that if it happens that you say your property is bonded by another bank, if it happens that you take your bond, you move it to Capitec, there's discounts that can be given to you. Yeah, so there's benefits to that as well.
And this applies to both property and vehicle. I know it's quite common in vehicle.
I just know with property.
Yeah, because I know that actually refinance is quite common in vehicle. It is.
Okay. And then while you're on the topic of refinance, so let's say it happens that you bought this property using the bank and the repayment years is, let's say, 20 years. Now, let's say after 15 years, you've already paid half of it. Let's say you bought a property that cost R1 million and after 10 years, you've already paid, let's say, 800,000 rand. That 800,000 rand, you have the ability to access those funds. When you access those funds, it's called refinancing. You can take those funds to either now buy the next property or to maybe settle your debts. And what's nice about it is that now what's only going to change is the bond period. So if it was 20 years, it's just going to increase to like 30 years, but still the same bond repayments.
Yeah. You can even use that money for renovations. Yeah, a lot of people do that. Yeah.
2 after 7 o'clock. Last tip.
And then coming back to the Uber Home Loan app. The Uber Home Loans. So it's an app.
Okay.
Another thing that you can do.
Uber is home loan.
Not Uber, Uber.
Yeah. So it's double O.
Uber property.
double OBA. So it's a bond originator company that assists people in getting bonds and getting pre-qualified.
But like you were against me and my white dress. It's not Uber, okay?
You are the best sleeper.
Top student.
The longest.
This one is not noticed.
This one is not problematic. The moderation is not on house.
I never give it top student.
Yes, well, no robala long. One slow sleeps longest. Proper this one. That's why. Let me out.
She's intelligent.
So sharp. Who passed the program at that time? She sleeps the laziest. She sleeps from the minute they drop her.
It's fine.
Until Mamu move go after chair.
It's fine.
Let me mutola Robert. Let me go.
Guys.
Wow, Jawa Roba. A sleepy stop. I look like a parliament moise and the same thing. There's a minister actually that we saw that is like that. 23 after 7 o'clock. Yes, 20.
Yes. So back to the last point when I said take it slowly.
Yeah.
There are tools that I would like to advise these beginners to make use of. So firstly, Property 24. Property 24, there's a filter that you can do that enables Property 24 to send you notifications.
Oh yes,
Yeah.
I think
that's very important. So that's where now you can analyze what's happening on the market. You can see what prices. Because now let's say if you say in Arcadia 2 bedrooms, any 2 bedrooms that's listed, you're gonna get an email.
Sure.
So now at least after a week, you can see that 10 properties, 22 bedrooms have been listed.
Yeah.
Now you can compare prices, you can compare sizes, you can see different complexes.
Sure.
So the first one, Property 24. The second one is the one I was talking about, Uber Home Loans. Yeah, Uber Home Loans, at least with this one, you know how to deal with your finances. You can see how much you can calculate the bond and transfer costs. Like I said, you can also do an affordability calculator, bond repayment. That's a nice thing you can do about it. Also, you can get pre-qualified from this. So from this app, you can just send them a message and then they'll contact you.
Interesting.
That's a nice thing. And then the third tool that I advise is to make use of this website called Lightstone. So light like LIGHT and then stone STONE.co.za. With that specific website, you can now, it's sort of like the deeds office, whereby you can access any property in South Africa. If you've got the address, if you've got, let's say, idea Muto, you can say, okay, this property was bought for so much, this is the size of it, and then this is the previous owner. So you can essentially get information about the property. Now, how this can help you is that you can determine whether the property was bought expensive. I mean, you're buying the property at a higher price or at a low price, because it also formulates what we call a transfer report, which shows you that in that specific area, how much of those properties have been selling for, and how much, basically, you can see how much those specific houses have been selling for. Now you can see if you're buying it at the right price or if it's too expensive. That's something that I want to end with.
25 minutes after the hour seminar. Thank you so much, Tony T. I think the fundamental thing about your presentations from time to time is that they enable us to also learn some of the things that are actually before our eyes, but we are just not, cognizant of the fact that these are essential things. And I think it's quite, necessary. And we appreciate that. Keep up the good work, man.
Thank you so much.
26 after 7 o'clock, Tshwane FM 93.6. It's time for us to squabble now. We work at difficult things, legal things. She's here. Oh yeah, no.
Wait again. Please leave my wedding dress alone. Please leave my wedding dress alone. Please leave my wedding dress. I want. My wedding dress. It's fine. Guys, you know what? Leave my dress alone. Leave my dress alone.
And you actually have a good fashion sense, eh?
No, I get told that a lot. Thank you.
You're studying a lot. You are in the
I know. I should be a stylist or something.
Yeah, even your hairstyle doesn't say. I'm sure a lot of clients.
I get to meetings and people are like, and then on top of that, I have a nose ring.
But
yeah,
What's what it means? What's what it means?
The memes are you
So, yeah, I love for 15 years old, but so man, when I did, I was busy on 15 years. What's happening when you get once?
So yeah, no, I get that a lot. I get asked, "Are you really a lawyer?" A lot.
But what do you make of these memes, man?
Those memes are mean, hey, because I feel like studying through UNISA is hard.
Yeah.
Correspondence is hard. Those
They choose UNISA and TUT
you
all
know,
the time.
yes, and you know why they do that to UNISA law students? Because traditionally people frown upon UNISA, and I don't understand why we are not changing that rationale or notion that UNISA students somehow. I mean, even I know, even the top firms in South Africa at first didn't want UNISA. They were very clear. They used to say that they do not want UNISA students.
Why?
Because I think their reasoning was that the type of medium of learning was not similar to a traditional university, and all those things, which I think is quite unfair. It's also similar with the CA stream. I know that traditionally people from University of Limpopo struggled to get articles to become CAs, and SAICA gave it, but then SAICA went on a roadshow and a change and said, listen, you guys have to start hiring these people. I mean, they had to analyze the curriculum, obviously, and I think that's the problem with UNISA, where people are saying the curriculum has its own issues, they don't get enough introduction to law and whatnot. There are issues there. Yeah.
Oh, how about interesting. 28 after 7 o'clock. But those memes, I found them so
yeah,
fun.
those memes are waste, guys.
I was in that guy. Gila ka mukenel mo la karay wa malo rupile mar.
Yeah, no, those memes.
Har malo client da ka resori mus.
Yeah, no, those memes. I know those memes are not nice, guys. I feel for those students.
Hi, the memes are not a UNISA.
I know, Shem.
I'm a lot. Client da ka sorry man. I'll move on. All right, let's move into the big things, interesting things that are coming through. I see in our law discussion, legal discussion, so to say, today. I think top of the range, it's the issue of Coligny. What's happening in that space?
I mean, everybody here. This Coligny case is a reflection of how, for the lack of a better word, how useless our police are.
Is it the long-standing decision?
Yeah, so let's just recap quickly with the Coligny case. It's that case that involved the two farmers who threw a young black boy from a moving bikie because he stole sunflowers.
Yes.
Yeah. So they were sentenced to 18 and 23 years respectively.
Yeah.
They then appealed to the Supreme Court of Appeal, which actually acquitted them. So essentially these two men are free, probably back at home, living their best life. And it's all because of the lack of proper investigations on the part of SAPS. And what happened then is the evidence presented before the judge was then problematic. And based on that, the judge made a decision. And it was actually, the SCA analyzed the evidence and found that the evidence was actually fabricated witnesses. They had issues with witnesses. So for me, this case is not even about the legal system at all.
It's about
the policing system in South Africa, our intelligence. The fact that we have police officers who literally do not sometimes have the qualifications to do the job, don't have adequate training. So now we have people, I mean, even if it wasn't murder, for me, it should have actually been maybe culpable homicide or assault with intention to cause grievous bodily harm. I mean, if you're going to throw a 16-year-old in your bikie, beat him up and throw him in your bikie, and even if apparently he jumped out according to them, and there are witnesses I'm saying the police investigated this thing properly, they would have had witnesses and a proper witness and not a credible, that's the word that they use in law, a credible witness who would have said, I saw them throwing out. Now the witness that they got was not even credible, because in one instance he said, yeah, I saw the next instance he said, no, it's the other one. So that's not credible. I mean, if you saw something, you must tell it, you must be able to tell it over and over again. So for me, it's not even about the legal system. I mean, justice was served, and I'm putting it in inverted commas because after all, the role of courts is to ensure that people are found guilty of criminal offenses beyond a reasonable doubt.
Sure.
So if it's not proven beyond a reasonable doubt.
As it reads here, 2 men convicted of the murder of the Coligny teenager Mahlomola Moshowi are now free after their convictions and sentences were set aside. Peter Durvata and Philip Shute won their case in the Supreme Court of Appeal on Friday. Lobby Group Afriforum brought the matter on their behalf, and the pair were sentenced to 18 and 23 years behind bars, respectively, last year for Moshowi's murder in 2017. The 15-year-old was thrown from the back of a moving van after being accused of stealing sunflowers from a local farm in the northwest town. Afriforum's Cardi Quill said, of course, the state can still appeal, but if you look at the evidence, it's there, the witness lied, and there's no way they are guilty of what they're being accused of. Sure.
Yeah.
Heart-wrenching
for the family. I mean, the family of the 16-year-old that was killed. At the very least, at least these people should have been guilty of assault with intention to cause grievous bodily.
Can I ask something? And this is just out of the equation now. In a law case, if the three of us are planning a murder, we are conspiring, and we go to the scene. Let's say you brought me and him to go and kill your boyfriend who's busy abusing you, so to say.
Yeah.
We arrive there with, let's say we have 12 cards.
Yeah.
He shoots and kills. I don't shoot and kill. We get arrested.
Yeah.
Are we all going to be charged
with murder?
With murder.
Yes.
The same. The same one that is going to get.
Well, there's a term, and as you're speaking, I was actually thinking about. There's a term. It's just like it escaped my mind, and I'll come back next week and tell you. There's a term they use in South African criminal law.
Yeah.
The fact that you all went there together, even if the one that pulled the trigger is Tony and not us, but the fact that we had all conspired initially and sat down and said we're going to kill Thabo because he abuses Refile.
Yeah.
Meaning that we were all acting in unison. So it doesn't matter that the other one is the one that shot, and then we were all like, nah, I didn't shoot.
So if you
your defense can. So what can help you is, let's say they were investigating and they couldn't pin it on anybody, and I went and became state witness and said, I can give you. I know who shot this guy. It's Tony. I can give it, but I want the lenient sentence. I don't want 25 years. I don't want. It's murder. It's definitely murder.
Yeah.
But I don't want 25 years. I don't want the maximum sentence.
Yeah.
Please give me 10 years.
Yeah.
Then you are a state witness.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, but now, if now you are defending, let's say for instance, it was the three of us.
Yeah.
And now you are a legal counsel.
Yes.
You have to defend. He shot. I didn't.
Yeah.
Shoot. So. In my defense, what would be if I didn't turn state witness?
Then the defense would say you were not acting. And it's very, you know what, in those cases, most of the time they all find them guilty of the same crime. But your legal counsel's argument would be that you were not acting in unison with them. Yes, you knew that they were going to
kill.
So in fact, the argument would be you thought when you were sitting together, you were under the impression that you were only going to hit him, but you were not aware that Tony was actually planning to kill him. So that is your actual defense. Because the fact that you left with them, you were sitting with them, were part of the planning, shows that you were acting in unison with them to kill this person. So your defense would probably be, but when we sat down together, and that is why in criminal cases, people can know very well that they've killed this person. I mean, for example, Oscar.
Yeah.
Oscar shot Riba. He shot him. There's no way he didn't. He can't come and say I didn't. But he blatantly said, "I'm not guilty of murder." Why? Because he said, "I'm not guilty of murder because I thought she was a burglar, an intruder coming to." So your defense would be, "I'm not guilty of murder because I was told we're only going to hit him and man him up or whatever and give a bench Refule's abuse. I didn't know that Tony was going to kill him. He told me." And that's the thing about criminal cases. It's always criminal cases. It's always a he said, she said thing. But then Tony got there and shot him. I didn't know.
So why did you not come and report Tony?
Exactly. So those are the things the state is then going to ask. If you knew that you guys didn't plan to kill, why did you not immediately after Tony shot this guy? Why didn't you come and tell us?
He said he told me as well.
But we would have offered you protection.
he said he's connected with police.
Okay, can I ask something?
Yeah.
So now, what happens if let's say okay, wait, I just lost my train of thought. There's three of us.
Yeah.
So there's three of us, and then he doesn't kill.
Yeah.
I kill, and then you don't kill. Okay, wait, let me just rethink this. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
who are you trying to kill?
No. This is a question I had, but then I just have to explain it properly.
Interesting. I think the case of law in South Africa is a very fundamental discussion. Let's move to I think another phony story, and we actually touched on this one. This is the Paruli Andile Lungisa. There's been a lot of discussion and debate around that. What do you make of this? I know that the DA is complaining that he received parole.
Yeah.
What's the legal irregularity in that space?
So you know what the core of this issue for me is, it's amazing how the law tends to protect people who have resources.
Please put your mic closer a bit.
Is that fine?
So
correct. For me, I think the crux of the problem here is I have worked with people who have served 25 years on a pro bono basis who were trying to get before a parole board, and it took them another 5 years. So I'm surprised that somebody who served a month in prison was already before a parole board within a month. So it's amazing that he was able to get before a parole board. You don't go on parole. Nobody decides your parole. Like the correctional officer doesn't say, "Oh, and you're out on parole." It's before a board. They have to assess whether you good behavior, the people who you inflicted the damage or harm onto, they have to get their responses. If you killed somebody, they have to go approach the family to tell them, "Listen, Tufile is applying for parole. What are your views? Make submissions." So I'm surprised that we have people who have been in prison for 25 years, 20 years, or 10 years, who have been applying for parole for the past 2 years, are still waiting to get before a parole board. Then you have somebody who served a sentence for a month and is already out.
But he qualified here.
Yes, he qualified. Listen, there's no dispute about him qualifying. Yeah. I mean, even Oscar in the next 5, close to 10 years, well, not even 10, 5, 6 years, Oscar is going to qualify for parole. And I can definitely tell you that he's going to get parole very quickly, because already the narrative is already out there that he's a good boy. He's praying for people in prison. He's driving tractors. He's giving counseling.
How is he driving tractors?
Yeah, good question. I also asked the question. I was like, so what driver without...
Yeah. Prosthetics, guys.
Yes, I can drive. That leg.
If he can walk, can't he? Wait, does he still have his prosthetics?
Yeah, I know he does. That is why they had to. That is why they had. I don't know if people know, but Oscar is in that Atteridgeville prison that's near Lodium and Atteridgeville, when you commit crimes such as murder, you go to a CMEX prison, a high security prison, which is in town. Yeah. So Oscar, the reason why they moved him there is because of his disability, and they were worried that he has to wear that leg, and it might actually, some prisoners might actually use it to cause harm to him. So his lawyers actually made a petition that he be moved to a low maximum prison because of the harm that might happen to him. So he's been there all along. Everybody thought it was at CMEX. No, he's there gardening. He's driving the tractors. He's gardening. He even goes outside gardens with people who have committed minor offenses. Which goes to my point here that the law tends to protect people who have the resources.
My law lecture said it is not protecting people that have resources. It is just being interpreted differently in different circumstances. And I said, more.
Listen, I think, and I always tell people this. The thing about and that is why you have judges, and that is why you have an appeal process in South Africa. A perfect example is the Coligny murder case, where the judge in the High Court in Mafikeng said guilty of murder, and he analyzed it based on their own interpretation of the law. And then it was appealed to the SCA, where they had a different interpretation. So the law is about interpretation. Otherwise, we wouldn't have judges, we wouldn't have cases. Because remember, the reason why we end up in court is because a basic thing. I always tell people that is why when I draft a contract as a lawyer, I want to draft it in simple language, because interpretation is the crux of legal matters. Because I can say, Refugee must pay 200 rand rent, right? That has different interpretations because the question now is going to be, when must she pay the rent? Is it month end, the first, or the fifth?
To whom must
to whom must she pay the rent? How must she pay the rent? Is it debit order? Is it, and what happens if Refugee doesn't pay the rent?
Yeah.
So the law really is all about
How do you
interpretation.
define your 200? Is it through service?
So you usually, when you draft a contract, exactly. So that's why when you draft stuff and when you draft a contract, I always tell people you must always think like a layperson and never draft. I don't draft like a lawyer, because the person who ultimately relies on that agreement is not a lawyer. So I once got solid advice from a very well-known legal practitioner in Pretoria who said to me, my advice to you as you go into the field is draft so that your clients don't ever have to come back to you to say your agreement has caused a problem and you're going to court.
Sure.
Yeah.
43 after 7 o'clock, Tshwane FM 93.6. That's exactly where we are. Yeah, but he qualified for special remission. How bad?
Yes. Let's explain that quickly. Yeah. Because remember when COVID initially started, there was a rumor going around, or stories going around, that Ramaphosa was giving remission to certain prisoners because obviously they wanted to get rid of the influx. Yeah. Because actually Corona is a problem in prisons. I mean, our correctional services employees are getting sick on a daily because of Corona. So they're obviously trying to get people out who had minor offenses. Yeah. And he's one of the people that got that remission. So because of that remission, and they also mentioned that he had good behavior,
but he didn't show remorse, because they're saying
he doesn't. He's not remorseful. He's never been remorseful. I don't think he is. In fact, I don't think he will ever apologize for doing it. He's not remorseful, and yeah.
So given an opportunity, he'll do it again.
Yeah.
Or even better.
And you must remember that the sad reality is, remorse sometimes is not even a factor. So if the parole board feels like, for example, in murder cases, some of these murderers don't have remorse. I think people always ask, how do you help somebody who killed, murdered, and brutalized somebody? And because at the end of the day, they also have rights, right? They served the time in jail. I know this gentleman that we helped was at CMEX, who had had a 25-year sentence and served about 15 years and wanted to get before a parole board. And people kept asking, how do you help such a person knowing what he did? And I said, ultimately, like me and you, he has got the right to appear before that board to make a representation. And whether he's remorseful or not is not my responsibility to judge that. But some of them are not remorseful. Some of them feel like, I've served my time, I want to go out.
And secondly, I think sometimes, in some cases, and maybe notwithstanding the issue of remorseful, if you look at some of the offenses, some people, these things, they were influenced by specific circumstances. Because some people, if you listen to their stories, is that they were cornered to believe that this is the only way they could get what they're doing. And that's the the beginning of a long-standing habit. It's like if you are used to saying you steal sugar, or when the food is still in the pot or something. Wow. It's small, but it's a habit. And before you know it, that's your lifestyle. So sometimes when I look at such incidences, I look at them with it could have been me.
Yeah, exactly.
Because if you think about your friends and think about moments where if this person got influenced by these people, where you were so trustworthy of your friends that they could have easily influenced you as well. Or because there is also people that are behind bars wrongfully so.
Yes.
I remember at some point I was driving to Mbombela and I was listening to this other radio station where a person was calling and saying, this lady connived with the guy Wale Purisa so that he can put me behind bars, because what had happened here was that I was dating her sister and then I was cheating with her. So what they did is then they connived, the family connived because of now she was dating a police officer, and that's how this guy they connived together to say I raped her so that they can save the relationship. Yeah, this lady and the cousin, which is the one I was dating full time. If you look at the stories of bricks.
Yeah,
that's another incident where he went. I think he's still in behind bars now
he is.
For statutory rape. If you look at it, it's Ishwelaya he slept with the cousin, the wife.
Yeah.
And for them, it's also those egos involved to say, oh, he found this one more effective and not me, and it's all those things. You get my point. 47 after 7 o'clock. Let's speak about the state capture inquiry. Tom Moyane, I think, was the big one.
Tom Moyane and Pravin Gordhan. So obviously, Pravin Gordhan had testified initially a couple of months ago. So obviously, and had obviously mentioned Tom Moyane's name there.
Yeah.
So obviously, Tom was given an opportunity to cross-examine what Pravin had testified. But I just feel like we are all watching there and thinking, wow, Dalim Pofi and Pravin Gordhan are literally cat and dog chasing each other. It's literally a cat and dog, or a rat and a mice.
Yeah.
No, a rat is a mice. A rat and a cat. Yes.
Tom and Jerry
chasing each other, literally. I mean, it's some of the things there you are just like. Wow.
But do you sense the arrogance in the book? And we were speaking about it yesterday with Professor Perry Hanyan. For him, it's not even issue arrogance and the alleged, racism between, between Pravin Gordhan and Tom Moyane, where a lot of people were saying he appears racist and very arrogant.
Who Pravin?
Pravin, yeah. But although I still felt that he was not forthcoming, where even Advocate Zondo had to actually come through and say, I mean, Judge Zondo, so to say, but it would be easy if you answer it in this way. I think that was also problematic for him.
No, we've seen instances where he's not, like you said, he's not forthcoming.
Yeah.
And I think that's what the problem with the state capture inquiry, that from Dudu Mieni's testimony, we've had people where people blatantly refuse to answer questions. She set the tone. Before her, people were answering. Queen Anna was even Queen Anna was getting it wrong, but after showing her after 20 minutes, she finally would admit, okay, Judge, I finally get it, And
are you saying that we're where we are today because of Dudu?
Listen, that lady also played a role here, and her buddy who walked out of the commission and was ill-advised and stood up and walked out of the commission. So I think with her, she set the tone for everybody. After her, literally everybody's coming in and saying, I'm not willing to answer that. People are just refusing.
Sure. 49 after 7 o'clock. That's exactly where we are today. And of course, just looking as well, news making that are making headlines. And we obviously just going to end it up for you here today with the Pebble City Nights coming through between now and midnight. But just largely in terms of the discussions that we're having, and I think the property one was just so important for me in terms of giving people that. But also, I think the takeaway from you, Refugee, for me, it's one. I don't know that it was not part of the script. The comprehension, how to interpret the law and making sure that people are going to easily interpret. That is very, very important. But what is also crucial for me, it's how the state continues to say everyone is equal before the law, where else in practice is the opposite, and that is worrisome.
Yeah, and I mean, for example, I always tell people, right, middle class people, the law. When with indigent people, you have pro bono services, right?
Yeah.
They can always, because they'll meet the needs test.
Correct.
Then you have the middle class, who are often people who work, right?
Yeah.
But can't afford legal services.
Sure.
So that's where also the problem comes in. Then you have the rich or the wealthy, the elite.
Yeah.
Like the middle class, right? Who can afford? And let me tell you why the law is not equal. Because I feel an indigent person, and we had just last week we had a case. That property issue is a perfect example of the problem with our legal system.
Yeah.
Where we have people, and these pro bono services you don't just walk in and say, help me, and then they run to help you. You have to fill out forms, meet the means test, and all those things, right? Then you're going to go up against somebody who has various properties, has money, and can literally call Dalim Pofi to say, Dalim Pofi, I'm appointing you today. Let's go to court. So that is the tussle with this, or the struggle with this, that you have people who are not on an equal footing. Even, for example, if I was litigating, I have a company and my client is the state. I can definitely guarantee you don't want any issues with the state, because the state can out litigate you and can literally and you can literally go end up liquidating your business out of legal fees. Because the state has the resources. They can appoint 4 senior counsels to their cases, which is what, if you go to court and see the type of counsels the state appoints, it's shocking. They appoint senior counsels because ultimately they have the resources to do that. And nobody wants to go to court and not win. So you're going to get the best people to work on your matter. You're going to go to a law firm in Sandton, whilst Refule can barely even afford to get onto a taxi to go to town.
Sure.
So we are all equal before the law. The Constitution protects us, and I think
the inequality,
the
social
the
inequality,
system, of the system. We are all equal before the law, but the problem is the system. Yeah.
Your thoughts and arguments, Tony?
Don't you think that people in high school or students should be taught more about common law?
Yeah. People should be taught, but the problem is I might have all the legal knowledge in the world. I can't go represent myself. I mean, it's sad. You go to, and I've seen it where if you go to the high court, especially for family law matters, what happens a lot is you actually see the husband or the wife representing themselves, and usually it's actually sad because often the man has the upper power because he's the one who is working and has all the money and will have an advocate and attorney, and the wife is stranded and is fighting to keep custody of her kids or just to have visitation rights, where the court does allow, but what the court often does say is it's unfair for you to come represent yourself because this person has a lawyer. And I've seen it happen a lot where the court will say, I'm going to refer you to legal aid. But the thing is, legal aid has so many cases they can literally not help you today. You're going to have to stand in a queue and there are probably like 600 other people in front of you. Yeah.
But then what I think is if everyone can be taught common law.
Yeah.
By the time
basic rights and protections.
By the time they decide to do a mistake, they'll think twice.
Sure. Yeah.
Because a lot of people, they do the mistake and then that's when like, it's I could have done it better.
Yeah. Oh, I just remembered the term I was talking about is called common purpose. There's a term in criminal law called common purpose where you're all acting in unison. You have the same objective, so common purpose. You're acting with one common purpose.
You remember I wanted to say something. So now let's say we're conspiring something to kill someone. Now.
Yeah.
And then now he decides to not be part of this, and then we go and do this thing. So now once we get caught, can we now include him?
No. He'll probably not be. Let's say you do go ahead with the murder. Yeah, right. You kill the person. He won't be guilty of murder, but he'll probably get like a conspiracy charge because he was conspiring with you, but he wasn't there at the scene. The fact that you are there at the scene and you had planned it, you're acting in common purpose. So the requirement for common purpose is that you must be at the crime scene when the crime was committed.
So failure to report a crime is also a crime.
It is a crime. Yeah, failure to report a crime is a crime.
But then now let's say we go to the crime scene and then the plan was to beat up the guy. And then he's like, hey guys, now I'm not playing with you guys.
Yeah.
Is he still implicated?
No, because he left.
But then now that he left, is it his duty to go to the police now?
Well, listen, you are supposed to go tell the police that I saw Refule and Tony committing a murder. But what's going to help him there is that probably he will get a lesser sentence because once he saw that you guys were actually deviating from the modus operandi, he left. He was like, I don't want to be a part of this. We are deviating. Once you start seeing that, let's use another example, rape.
But won't they kill him?
Yeah.
You can go and say, I get you. You know what the one question you always get is why didn't you go to the police and tell them that you are fearful, you're fearing for your life that Tony and Refule will probably kill you? Why didn't you seek protection? So let's use a rape example. Let's say we have common purpose. We have a neighbor. We all together, and we see a neighbor, and we're all plotting. We're gonna kill this girl and rape her. Well, kill her.
Yeah.
So we minus the rape part. We all decide we're gonna kill her. We see her walking out of her house, and we think, jackpot, this is the day. We get her, we rob her, and then we kill her. But before we kill her, one of you decides, okay, I want to have fun with her. For the lack of a better term, and do the most atrocious and indecent thing of raping her.
Yeah.
We're not all guilty of rape. The difference here is that rape requires physical contact with that person. So I can't rape you because I didn't penetrate you. Rape requires penetration. Yeah. So with common purpose cannot be applied to rape I just wanted to make that clear. It cannot be applied to rape unless if you actually penetrate the person, because an element of
can it be applied to assault?
Yes, it can. Because let's say if you are there and you throw in a punch, I agree you were.
No, I'm saying if I didn't contact you, but I was part of the plane, I was there.
Yeah, it can be applied. Yes, it can be applied to common purpose. Can be applied to that, but to rape it cannot be, because you must remember the element of one of the elements in proving a rape charge, right, is actual penetration. Right.
So if you were there, how about it?
But why did you go there? The question they always ask you is, a criminal lawyer will ask you is, what were you doing on the scene?
Okay, what if he just came and picked me up?
Then you were not part of the common purpose. He's not.
Because I'm thinking, if I'm lying to say, and I didn't know that.
But then now it's 2 against 1.
Yeah, but the lady, I know he was here because 2 young supi for 1 rape.
Guys, the first question with common purpose is, what purpose did they all go there with? If we all sit down and agree that we are going to murder and we murder, it's common purpose. If we agree that we are going to assault, right? And then we get there, Tony decides to shoot. Tony is guilty of murder by himself.
If we go there with a plan to rape, and I don't rape, you rape.
You are not guilty of rape because there's no actual penetration.
Sure.
Yeah. So common purpose is not applicable to.
Okay. So it's quite confusing.
Okay.
Yeah. We want to be a lawyer.
You know what I'll do? Next week, I'll actually elaborate on common purpose. Common purpose is actually a very tricky. I mean, I remember when I did criminal law. Yeah, criminal law showed me flames. It was one of my worst modules, because I remember we did criminal law and they taught us and they used to give us set of facts to apply that.
They all sound okay.
Yeah, common purpose is actually one of the trickiest things, because essentially you have to prove that everybody left a specific place to go to that place with a common purpose of committing a common crime. If there are deviations from that, you have to prove deviations. Sure. And the thing is, it's a hearsay thing. Now I wasn't there to murder. I was there to ushapa. So that's the way the trick comes in with common purpose. But what I'll do is next week I'll definitely bring examples of
5-9 after 7. This is where we leave it, colleagues. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I think our part here is done. Pebble City Nights is coming through between now and midnight. This one is Nomcebo Zigot. It's a song titled Umoya Wami or La Moya Wami. A very great evening to you. Back again tomorrow, same time, same place, looking at different factors.
94.6, keeping you on top in Cap City.